fasting, feasting, Jesus. I've always been a little envious of my Muslim family and friends over the season of Ramadan, equivalent to our Lent. Both are holy days of fasting and praying, and then translating those prayers into acts of caritas and compassion. The Muslim commitment and devotion to the practice of fasting is admirable. To have almost all of your household and the community at large fast with you, excluding the very young and very old, and those who can't because of medical reasons, is a bonus and blessing. Knowing that you are not fasting alone, the whole Muslim world fasts with you is such an encouragement. And knowing that at the end of the day, you can break your fast with others at a delicious iftar meal is joyously Eucharistic. If you've never been to an iftar meal, please speak to me. Fasting has always been part of the Abrahamic religions, and it almost always takes Muslims by surprise when they learn that these 40 days before Easter are days of fasting and praying for Christians. In the Gospels, Jesus never speaks of if you fast, but always when you fast. It was part of his practice. It still is part of Jewish culture today. When I was on sabbatical in Jerusalem, the year before the whole world locked down, I was tempted many times as I ambled through the old city to photograph Jewish women and men fasting. But that would have been too intrusive. It was so obvious that it was a fast day, as modern Jews wear thick socks and canvas shoes, and, if you are a woman, no makeup. It was similar in Jesus' day. People looked a sight and were unkempt. Jesus counseled the opposite. Groom yourself, he said. Shine. He taught that God knew what you were doing, and that what others needed to experience was God's compassion shining through you. In the Gospels, Jesus never speaks of if you fast, but when you fast. It was part of his spiritual rhythm, and fasting in the Judeo-Christian tradition, as in Islam, is always associated with praying. Praying and fasting and praying are siblings. What does it mean to fast? On the most basic level, and strictly speaking, it is the abstinence from food and drink, from sensual pleasures between sunrise and sunset. But of course, it is more than just denying yourself food or luxuries, as we used to say as youngsters. A helpful metaphor is emptying yourself. Modern humanity is ferociously consumeristic. Less is never more. Fasting helps us to empty ourselves, making room for a keener sense of God's presence and mystery, God's justice and truth, a sense of solidarity with those who live with and on far less. It heightens our sense of compassion, justice, and shared humanity. Fasting is about the stomach, but it also has a way of awakening or challenging the heart. The emptiness of fasting makes you more receptive to the whispers and subtleties of God's Spirit. Jews in the time of Jesus fasted on Mondays and Thursdays, market days, where everyone could see. In the Gospels, Jesus criticized this because people made a spectacle of it, looking gloomy and pulling unsightly faces. Fasting is more than that. It's a quiet, secret practice that awakens you to acts of charity, compassion, caritas, practical love. Fasting has become very fashionable today, not as a spiritual discipline, but because of its health benefits. There are some wonderful apps you could purchase. Check it out on your smartphone. Intermittent fasting. Fasting is more than fasting from food and drink, from creaturely comforts and desires. Pope Francis several years ago suggested other ways in which to fast. I will note several here. Fast from hurting words and say kind words. Fast from sadness and be filled with gratitude. Fast from grudges and be reconciled. Fast from words and be silent so you can listen. Jesus' disciples were criticized for not fasting. How could they? When Jesus was around, they were feasting. But Jesus knew that there would come a time when fasting would be necessary for them. In their culture, you fasted before a major decision or an event. You fasted at the recollection of a major past event. Fasted when you were remorseful. Fasted when you were broken-hearted. When all that you ate were your tears. Fasted when you hit a fork in the road, needed more clarity and direction, needed to better hear the secret whispers of God, whose language is often silence. To conclude, I turn again to my old Persian mystic and friend, Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi. Here's an edited poem of his on fasting. Beautiful imagery of God, the Holy Spirit, friendship, our beloved Jesus, and the movement from fasting to feasting can be found. There's hidden sweetness in the stomach's emptiness. We are lutes, no more, no less. If the sound box is stuffed full, there's no music. Be less full, empty. Be emptier and cry like reed instruments do. When you fast, good habits gather like friends who want to help. A table descends to you and to your household, Jesus' table. Expect to see it when you fast. This table spread with other food, better than the broth of cabbages. Expect to hear Jesus say, "Come, welcome, shalom, salam. Let's break our fast together. Let's feast. I've cooked something better than cabbage broth. Come."